Welcome guys to Let's Build Jurassic World Part 2, and from this angle at the minute, little would you know we are actually within the Indominous Rex enclosure, and obviously that is what we're continuing with in this episode. Now in the past episode we left off with just building the basic walls and the outline of this command center, and now in this episode, as you can see, we've included all kind of the interior detail, the foliage, the main gate entrance, and the actual interior to that command center itself. So now as we open here, you can see with exactly what we left off with in the last episode. However, one little detail had to happen, because from this perspective here, I felt the size of the Indominus Rex, that I hadn't done it big enough. This enclosure wasn't big enough. So as you can see here, I've expanded it quite dramatically and then kind of gone back in here. Now we're outlining where that main gate will go. Now from those of you who've seen the film, you'll know there are some quite big kind of identifiers that we recognize as the Indominus Rex enclosure, that being these huge unfinished concrete walls, that kind of integrated command center, and then that huge gate. And now where that huge gate sits, there is actually this kind of track down the middle of the enclosure, and it's obviously for access, that kind of stuff. So this track runs straight down the middle with the trees either side. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting out the landscape, and it's a dirt track, so we're using the I'm not sure what this block's called, but I think it works nicely for the dirt track over gravel. I thought I'd mix it up a bit, and this, I think, in this kind of temporary, kind of fake jungle atmosphere, this dirt kind of works nicely. And now, so this track runs nicely down the middle, and it's all this kind of natural look. Now we start putting around our kind of jungle forest around it. Now this is a process I normally skip through in these videos, so I thought I'd give you a quick snippet of how I do it. And you can see me using jungle trees as the main basis. Then these little oak trees here, because oak trees normally grow a lot smaller than jungle trees, it really allows it to fill out the forest and give it that density you need. And then those final details need to be added, because obviously I'm creating this myself. The world hasn't generated certain things, such as the vines need to be added, so again, adding that density and the idea you can't see through it. And now something I'm just going to go in and add my own kind of bushes and long grass and that kind of stuff. Again, just to build up that idea, this is a big, dense, tropical jungle. So this is kind of the extra little detail, because we've got this big grey wall. If you keep looking, you can keep seeing little specks of grey through this forest. And I think with the addition of these kind of, these large ferns and this overgrown grass, it really helps to kind of block out that big concrete wall at the back of this wood and give that whole idea that this dinosaur's actually out in the jungle itself. It's not actually confined to these four walls. So that little idea works nicely there. And then as we come here, we're going to pan around, and then I'm going to put a slightly less dense forest to the left, because you still, from the command center, you still want to be able to see within through the windows and see the Indominus Rex moving around and that kind of stuff. So we have that less dense version on the left around the command center, and when we come in here, I think we get a really good perspective of what the viewers can see. You could really imagine that huge dinosaur kind of making its way through the trees. Now we're going to work on one of the centerpieces of this build, and that is that huge industrial door. So now this whole space here, I just wiped out to give us a nice clean slate to build this door from, and I thought it'd be a good idea to work from the top down. And the idea with this door is this big industrial kind of mechanical door. It's all automated, it's all under control. So with that, I kind of went back to the kind of using these stone walls, kind of something we'd had to replicate, like steel girders, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a very metallic kind of iron-bound door. So I thought there's many different approaches I could have gone to this, but I think we've got a really good one here. So we're adding in kind of the main frame that holds the whole thing together. And the interesting thing about this door is it doesn't kind of swing open or anything like that. It actually slides open, a bit like an elevator door. So this bit we're building here with these upside down stone stairs is kind of the bit that the door slides into. So we'll do a bit of editing in a minute to show you how that kind of works. So we kind of carry on building the frame here and kind of building this idea of this is kind of a metal sleeve for the door to slide into. So, and these kind of upside down stone stairs really give a close representation to what it looks like in the film. So I brought these stone stairs outwards, so they're now level with the actual wall itself, and I do it on this side as well. So now you can imagine this is 3 blocks wide, and this bit is the actual door we're building now, and this kind of bit on the left here is the bit that slides into that big sleeve we've basically just created. So the light grey bit's the door and the dark grey bit's the sleeve. I mean, I think that's probably my best way of describing it. So now we're just adding in the final details, you know, finishing off the frame here and there, making sure it all looks cohesive and nice, and then just adding in this kind of underlying there kind of stone, you know, stone slabs, just kind of give it that kind of finished feel, you know, it looks kind of nice and smooth. And now there is a control for the door, obviously. So what we build here is, again, due to Minecraft's limitations, I think using that little stone wall there with a stone stair on top just gives a nice idea. That's a keypad you could use, and it would open the door. Now, this door is big, mechanical, and it's obviously going to be kind of held in place really well. And this is the only bit on the inside of the enclosure that has a steel these kind of steel arches coming into the enclosure. So that's what we're doing here. I'm kind of replicating exactly what we see on the outside, but on the inside. You know, we created those in the last episode. It kind of holds the door in place and makes sure there's no way of it knocking down or the Indominous Rex getting out herself. So now we need a little access route for people to get in and out. And actually, from looking at some pictures off Google Images, there is actually a tiny little door that kind of is out of the way and right in this corner here. And it's obviously for personnel to come in and out of the enclosure without having to open that huge industrial door. So I just create this in kind of a standard Minecraft way of using these stone walls as a nice frame and then stone stairs as the top of the frame. And then obviously adding in that keypad design we used earlier with a little iron door. And I think here in a minute we're just going to add the finishing touches here. We have a nice zoom out, and this zoom out really shows kind of, you can see that proper comparison with the size of that giant door compared to this tiny little one. Now we have the inside of the control room, and this control room is incredibly basic. It has a couple of control panels here and there, some girders holding up the ceiling, so it wasn't really too much of a challenge really coming in here and doing this. So we obviously need to carry on the continuity. So here we have those two like kind of keypads put back in, and then we had a bit of, you know, structural integrity. So we put like pillars either side, but one thing we're going to have to go and build is there's a little security guard, and this security guard is kind of 24/7, you know, he's kind of always watching over the Indominous Rex. So in here he has a little kind of desk with a set of TV monitors in which he can watch security footage of the Rex itself without having, you know, to gawp through the windows all the time. So we put in this nice long desk here and then use Minecraft again. The stairs are coming in really handy in this build. They've been used for the desk and that kind of stuff. Now they're putting a nice little chair here. Now the best way I think, because again we're in Minecraft, is how can I put in TV screens? And the best way I think was using pictures here, and I made sure they were pictures that were kind of, obviously we can't get any jungly pictures, so I made sure they were all kind of different. I mean, there are two duplicates there, but you know, it doesn't really matter. It's all one enclosure, and I think these pictures from a long distance, I think they work kind of nicely as little screens. I think it works much better than me putting like a blue glass block there or something like that, because they don't really, you know, they don't never look like kind of TV images, but I think those pictures there work quite nicely. So now adding that idea of continuity again, just kind of going around and seeing where we can have a bit structural, a bit like kind of, you know, a bit of depth really, because this is a very bland, kind of simple, minimalist design. I still wanted to see where we could add a bit of detail here and there, just kind of to fill out the room really. So now we're going to put on the doors, and we never actually see the doors. I think they're always open whenever we see them in the film. So I just obviously add in two little levers there, you know, to keep the doors open, and then just build a little bit. I kind of want to keep this again minimal. I didn't really want to go too far, so a nice little simple door design here. We have the computers over there, and obviously we have the windows with the control terminals looking out on the Rex herself. And that actually brings us to the end of this episode. However, this isn't the end of this Indominus Rex enclosure. In the next episode, we're going to have to come back to it and just add a few final details here and there, mainly on the outside of the enclosure, just making sure it looks kind of like exactly what we see in the films. But also there is one big extra detail we need to add to this enclosure, and that is putting an occupant within it herself. So guys, look out for that episode coming very, very soon, in which within this jungle confinement we'll put the Indominus Rex in herself. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.